So I just got back from the latest movie of the award-winning, acclaimed director of Passion of Christ and Braveheart. Now, it's kind of weird. The studios promoting the film won't actually say his name, but they'll hire him to make the movie. And with that, I'm welcome you to another episode of The Romantic, where my goal, as always, is to enhance your movie watching experience. So Hacksaw Ridge, of course, directed by Mel Gibson. Yeah, I'll say his name. I know he's not people's favorite out there, and I'll separate the art from the artist. He's a nut, and he might as well be running for president for all I care. But at the end of the day, you know, he is a great director. So I was really interested in seeing what he will come up with here, what he give us. And I gotta say, this is a very interesting story, a true story, fascinating, about a individual named Desmond Doss, played by Andrew Garfield, who is a hero. He ends up saving the lives of 75 troops in the Battle of Hacksaw Ridge against Japan at the later part of World War II. Now, I didn't know too much about the story beforehand, so everything was pretty much new to me. And it was just a fantastic story about this. It's this guy who proves you don't have to be a fighter, pick up a gun, or kill people in war to be a hero. Now, Andrew Garfield plays Desmond Doss himself, and I gotta say, I like Garfield, but he's never been better. Dare I say, he may be getting a call from the Academy about being nominated. It's very close. I gotta kind of sit on that, but he did an excellent performance. Now, what's really interesting about this movie, about Desmond Doss himself, is that, yeah, he grew up in a small town, had a kind of a rough childhood, but he is a pacifist. You know, he refuses to pick up a gun, pick up a rifle, despite the Army's best efforts to force him to. He stands by his guns. He's idealistic. He's a true believer in God, and he sticks by his guns, and he would not bend over for anybody. And it's just kind of interesting because it's a good juxtaposition about a man like that thrown in the mix of battle. And can he be considered a hero? Can he be counted on to save lives? And that's what he wants to do. He's a medic, and he's there not to fight, but to save lives. And that's the point of what he's trying to do. And he does that very successfully. Now, there's other good performances in this movie besides Garfield. I mean, don't worry, this is like Andrew Garfield's movie, and rightfully so. But it's also notable performances from someone like Sam Worthington, who we haven't seen in a while, and he was pushed down the throats of, you know, five years ago, something like that. But he's back in this movie. He actually does a good job playing a colonel or something like that. We have, surprisingly, Hugo Weaving, who I like, but he's primarily known, you know, as a guy who does more sci-fi and fantasy. Obviously, Matrix of Agent Smith and Elrond and Lord of the Rings. There's been V and Vendetta. He's in Red Skull. But here he gives a performance I haven't seen from him. He actually plays Garfield's dad, or an ex-war veteran who's an alcoholic fighting his demons, and he was really, really good. I'm surprised to see him in that role. And along those lines, also Vince Vaughn, who I wasn't aware was even in this movie. He plays the drill sergeant who actually goes into battle with Garfield's character down towards the end, and he was actually very good. And at first I was a little bit concerned. I was worried that we're gonna see the same Vince Vaughn we always see. I love Vince Vaughn, but let's be realistic. For the most part, maybe the last 10 years, he's the same guy. Just take him one movie and insert him in the other movie. That's all he does, and he's funny, he's quippy. But that's who he is. But in this movie, he's actually a little bit different. Now, he does bring some moments of levity, specifically at the beginning when Andrew Garfield's going through the training and all that. But not in a typical Vince Vaughn way. He's aggressive, a little more. He's grittier. You know, he's like, you actually believe him as a sergeant, as a hero that he is by the end of the movie. I was just surprising. And kudos to Mel Gibson, who's, again, next to Garfield, the real star of this movie. And he, again, like I said, he's a great director, and there's no different here. He gets great performances from these guys. And it's interesting because this is almost like two movies. The first half of the movie, we're focusing on Garfield's character, learning about him, and actually have an interesting love story in there, which actually is very believable, very charming. And then all of a sudden, the last second half, it gears into what we expect out of Mel Gibson. You know, he knows how to direct, you know, big battles. We've seen that before in movies like, obviously, Braveheart. And this one is no different. It's brutal, graphic, very well shot, very, very tense. He knows when to dial it down, when to take a break and get back into the action. And this is what he does best. And again, if you're not a fan of that, you know, if you're familiar with Mel Gibson movies, he doesn't shy away from the blood and the guts. That's what he does. Now, this is not up there with like a Saving Private Ryan by any stretch of the imagination, but it's still a very well done war film. It really puts you in there in the chaos that the war does bring, and it presents that to you in a very visceral way. Now, of course, this movie was fishing for an Oscar, and I don't think it reached those heights for me personally. That's not a knock on the movie. I think it may get nominated, may not. I see more nomination more for Garfield than anything else. If it does, I wouldn't have a problem with it if this movie is nominated, or even Mel Gibson as Best Director. I just think for me, it didn't hit those high notes like a Saving Private Ryan did. But Garfield, again, this is all about Garfield. He had not only a good performance from an acting standpoint, but a very physical performance, much like kind of the character did last year, The Revenant. Not to that level, but still very good. But again, despite that, and just because it's not an Oscar movie, that doesn't mean you shouldn't go watch it. I highly recommend this movie, particularly if you like war films, if you like a good story, if you like Mel Gibson. Again, from an artist standpoint, this is one I definitely recommend you guys go watch. You'll be surprised how much you may like this movie. You may like it even more than I did. I really, really enjoyed it. I think you guys will too. If you guys do see it, you like it, didn't like it, comment below, let me know what you guys thought. And of course, as always, subscribe below and feed my need to go to the movies and talk about it afterwards. See you guys next time.